Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPhone 15 and compare it against the Nothing Phone 2 and see which particular phone is a better one for you. Now, I will definitely tell you between both these devices, there's a little bit of overlap, but I do think for the average person, probably going for something like the iPhone 15 would probably be the better choice for a majority of people. I think the Nothing Phone is a good phone for sure. I'm just not 1000% too sure of the company. We don't really have that much of a reputation with Nothing yet, and I do think it's going to take a couple years for them to kind of build out exactly what's going to happen, in terms of not only support, but also in terms of like software updates and everything like that too. With Apple, you already kind of know what you're getting because we've seen years and years and years of the iPhone, in general. So I definitely do think if you're coming from like the background of both these, the iPhone already kind of has, it's Apple, it's an iPhone, you already know what's going on with it. The Nothing Phone, I guess we'll see what happens in the future with it, but from as of this point, this is how they compare. If you want to pick up some phones, including these ones that I would recommend buying this year, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off with the outside of both of these devices, the Nothing Phone 2, which came out a little bit earlier this year, has a 6.7-inch LTPO OLED display on the front of this thing. Now, it's a 1080p panel, so fairly good resolution, 120Hz, 1600 nits of brightness, and it's a pretty good looking panel. There's a couple advantages with this panel over the iPhone 15s. One, it's a hole punch display. So it doesn't actually have, like a notch or the dynamic island. It is a genuine hole punch display, which looks very good. You're getting a 120Hz panel on this thing too, which is substantially better, in my opinion, than a 60Hz panel. And it's a bigger display. Some people may prefer that. That might be an advantage or disadvantage. But there is some advantage with the Nothing Phone 2, even though it's a little bit cheaper than something like the iPhone 15. Now, the 15, on the other hand, has a 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. And with this particular device, I definitely do think, for my opinion, that this is a very, very good panel. It's a 6.1-inch panel, so it's definitely smaller than the Nothing Phone 2. You're getting a dynamic island on this particular device. So the thing with this specific phone, which I think it looks great, is that because of that dynamic island, you could be getting a little bit of a different experience, meaning that this could potentially be a phone that, may not be as good as the Nothing Phone 2 because of that, 60Hz, dynamic island, things like that. But regardless, it's a very good looking phone. And I don't really think one definitely wins in the screen panel, but I think the Nothing Phone probably wins a little bit better here. They both have kind of like this flat side to it, which looks great. On the bottom, they both have USB-C, which is very cool. I love USB-C. I'm glad these two phones have it. And they both have like cool little features here and stuff here there too with that port, but I'm very glad both these phones have USB-C. On the back side, kind of a little bit of a difference here. So with the Nothing Phone 2, you have a dual camera setup, a full-on glass back. It is a clear glass back, which allows you to see the background, and you actually have this like LED light structure on the back of the Nothing Phone 2. I think it looks great. I think it's a really nice touch. I don't know if this would be a reason to buy this phone. This is like what makes this phone unique, but it's cool. If you throw a case on it, there's cases that support it, but like ultimately it's a cool feature and I'm glad it has it, I guess. I never really use it, to be honest. The iPhone 15, on the other hand, has a dual camera setup as well. Diagonal setup this time. It does have a frosted glass back though. So this is something that's cool. I love having frosted glass backs, and frosted backs are much better than standard glass backs in my opinion from a looks perspective. But I would say from the outside, potentially the iPhone 15, I would say kind of is the more premium one, but the Nothing Phone 2, you are getting a couple cool features. I think, the 120Hz display is really nice, and I definitely do think things like reverse wireless charging and those types of features are really, really nice, and the hole punch display, those are like common features you're getting on a device nowadays. So in terms of that kind of covers it up there. Now, from the other standpoint with the cameras, this is also a very interesting setup that we have on both of these. So with the Nothing Phone 2, you're getting a 50 megapixel wide angle camera, 50 megapixel ultra wide camera, and on the iPhone 15, you're getting a 48 megapixel wide angle lens and a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera. So from that standpoint alone, you might think automatically that the Nothing Phone 2's camera is better. They both can do 4K at 60 on the back. However, on the front, you are getting 4K at 60 on the front of the iPhone 15. The Nothing Phone 2 is only getting 1080p. Now, 1080p is still perfectly fine, right? I think 1080p is perfectly fine, but having the ability to go up to 4K at 60, I think is very, very important. And in order for us to actually have a good solid camera, it would make a lot more sense to have a device that can actually do 4K at 60 on the front and the back, just to kind of future-proof that phone. The Nothing Phone 2 is already somewhat outdated with that front camera because of the lack of 4K at 60 on the front. So from that perspective, that's a very, very, very important thing to keep in mind. But even taking a step forward, with the Nothing Phone 2, having a device like this phone that also essentially, in my opinion, also has a little bit of a difference with the camera UI. I'm also not a fan of that UI of that camera either. I feel like that UI within that camera is a little bit sloppy. Like I feel like, it could do a little bit of a better job here, meaning that I kind of think that when it comes down to it, this is a specific lens that isn't really that great, could be doing a little bit better. The iPhone, 15, I think just kind of is a very good camera all around. It's very solid. It can take a lot of photos and videos and really good quality. So I definitely do think the camera is probably one of the weirder aspects of the Nothing Phone 2, but the iPhone 15 definitely dominates in this perspective. So that kind of covers it up there too. Now, in terms of the software and longevity, this is the more complicated area with these two devices, meaning specifically for comparing the Nothing Phone to the iPhone. With the iPhone, we know how long this phone's going to last. Probably another 5 to 7 years. It could be longer, it could be shorter, but it's probably going to be roughly around that time. With the Nothing Phone 2, we really don't have any idea of how long this phone is actually going to last. Manufacturers and companies can say anything. The only two companies or three that I trust is Samsung, Google, and Apple as of this point. And the Nothing Phone, I don't know how long this phone's going to last. I would probably say it's going to last 2 or 3 versions of Android. So we're going to have to wait and see. So this thing is still going to last this year, next year, and the year after probably. But that third year, like the year after one I just mentioned, I don't know if it's going to last that long, but we're going to have to wait and see. And from that point on, I guess we're just going to have to take a look from there. So that kind of covers it up there as well. Now it's, in terms of the speed side, there's also a little bit of a difference here as well. The Nothing Phone 2 had that Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 chipset inside with 8 gigs of RAM on the base model, but it does go up to 12. With the iPhone 15, you were getting that Apple A16 Bionic chip inside with 6 gigabytes of RAM. Now, the Nothing Phone 2, I will say, is a very good performing phone. From everything that I could kind of like gawk at this phone and kind of be like, oh, it's not that good a phone here and there, the performance on this phone is very, very good. It's basically stock Android, and you're also getting like a pretty good performing device on a stock Android phone, which is really cool. And it's Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1. That was a very good chipset last year, and it's still holding up very, very well. For any games or applications that you're going to use, it's going to do a really good job, and I don't really have that much to complain about from that specific perspective. With the iPhone 15, I feel like this is also a very good performing phone. With this device, you can pretty much, do anything you'd want to within this device, and I think it's going to hold up very well from that perspective. Realistically speaking, if you're wanting to get a phone that's going to last a long time in terms of performance, both these phones are going to be fine. I think the iPhone 15 would probably be the overall smoother, better performing phone, but I do feel like the Nothing Phone will give you better performance and having the ability of installing your own applications, meaning you can install different emulators and test those things out. You can have a really good, time with the Nothing Phone over the iPhone 15. So keep that in mind, but that's kind of how I see both these phones somewhat comparing from that specific perspective. Battery life wise, the Nothing Phone actually has a pretty good step up here, has a much bigger size battery, but I do feel like once again, the iPhone, with it having a little bit of a more optimized chipset, I would say, may give you a little bit of both these phones are going to be giving you good battery life, but the Nothing Phone may win here. So to kind of sum it up, what I'll tell you is, between both these phones, I would probably say that the Nothing Phone is a good phone overall. And if there's a reason you need this phone or you're sticking with Android, I think it's a comparable phone to the iPhone 15. But if I had to pick up one, I think I may end up choosing the iPhone 15 just because it does have, it is giving you a better camera. I know this phone's going to last me a long period of time in terms of software. There's a big community behind this phone, and I feel like this would be the one that's probably suited better for me. But the Nothing Phone probably is giving you more features per dollar, if that makes sense. I mean, that 120Hz display, reverse wireless charging, the glyph interface on the back, which is kind of a nice feature, the hole punch display, Android, and the ability of installing your apps is really, really important to me, even though it's a basic feature of Android. And that's kind of how both these phones somewhat kind of compare from that perspective. So that kind of covers it up on my side. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that helps me so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.